Dawn of Ragnarok, the latest expansion for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, is a major bummer, man. It's a colossal waste of money, time, and most of all, potential. This video is going to be a bit more ranty than my usual reviews. I spent the better part of the last 4 days playing through this DLC, and I found myself disappointed over and over again. I won't say I had the highest hopes for this expansion, but I was impressed with their last foray into mythology in the Fate of Atlantis DLC for AC Odyssey, so I was hoping this would be just as good. In Dawn of Ragnarok, you play as a literal god with magical powers in a mythological dwarven setting with gorgeous visuals. And somehow, Ubisoft turned this incredible concept into a grindy, boring, soulless cash grab in a way that's frankly kind of impressive in a strange way. Like, you'd really have to go out of your way to make this concept suck. I can't say I'm surprised that Ubisoft went this route, but I am nonetheless disappointed. I want to stress that I did enjoy the base game of AC Valhalla, so I'm not here to just drag this game for no reason. I'm not a bitter AC fan here to talk about the good old days of Ezio. I thought Valhalla was really fun for the most part, albeit a bit too long and bloated for its own good. But at this point, I am more than a little burnt out on Valhalla's gameplay loop of grinding for resources, completing meaningless, repetitive copy and paste open world activities, and overly drawn out story sections. I was hoping that Dawn of Ragnarok would implement some fresh new gameplay elements, really lean into the fact that we're playing as a god in a mythological setting, and provide a tighter overall experience. Instead, most of what you'll be doing in Dawn of Ragnarok is literally just copy-pasted activities from the base game or other expansions. Here are some examples of open-world activities that dot your map. Jotun blights are literally just cursed symbols, except they teleport and you have to destroy like 5 of them in each location. You raid camps, just like monasteries, to gather resources to upgrade your Hugorip. Hilariously, your raiding crew is literally the same people from England. They didn't even bother to give Odin his own crew of Valkyries or anything like that. You gather platinum ingots to upgrade your gear to the new highest level, which is divine status, adding in yet another resource grind. I upgraded most of my current equipment to divine status and continued to max out the stats, but I didn't notice any difference in actual gameplay. The combat is so easy in this game that I probably didn't need to bother upgrading this shit at all. I was doing just fine with my mythical gear. You can find dwarven altars, same as the offering sites from the base game, where you trade random items for a skill point, which you probably don't even need anymore. My character's at power level 500, and leveling up has been meaningless for a long time. You gather gemstones, which you can trade for random runes and cosmetic schemes, kinda like the Roman artifacts collectible hustle. You can also find tattoo pages and other cosmetic schemes in the wild. You can rescue dwarves from invading enemies in exchange for crafting resources. These encounters are technically new, but they're all the same. You kill the goons, talk to the dwarf, and get a reward later. It's boring. They also added a combat arena, where you can complete challenges and grind out arena currency in exchange for gear. What an original idea. Honestly, I'm so burnt out on arenas at this point. I just finished playing Horizon Forbidden West and AC Odyssey in the past few weeks, so I didn't even want to touch the arena in Dawn of Ragnarok. None of these activities really take advantage of the mythological setting of this expansion. They're all just unimaginative copy and paste activities from the base game of Valhalla. This is what I mean by wasted potential. The only new gameplay mechanic is the Hugorip, which gives Odin the ability to use magic. There are 5 new magical abilities. Power of Muspelheim allows you to disguise as a Muspel and prevents you from taking lava damage. Power of Jotunheim allows you to disguise as a Jotun and use teleportation in specific scenarios. Power of the Raven allows you to transform into a raven, so you can travel faster and reach places you otherwise couldn't get to. You can also spec into an aerial assassination ability. Power of Winter gives you more frost damage against Muspels, and Power of Rebirth allows you to revive fallen enemies to fight on your side temporarily, so basically necromancy. You can only equip 2 abilities at a time, and you have to loot them from enemies each time you want to change your equipped abilities. Using these new powers was fun, I'll admit. It did switch up the gameplay a little bit, but I honestly expected more out of this expansion than a literal handful of new abilities. There is so much potential for new magical powers, mythical weapons and armor, rich quest lines, exploration, and storytelling, but Ubisoft didn't really scratch the surface on any of that potential. They just recycled old ideas that were already in the game. So if the gameplay is hardly revamped, then what about the mythological setting? The game is beautiful, I'll give it that, but honestly, is that enough? We get to explore this big, beautiful dwarven homeworld, but what's the point of exploring it, really? There's nothing interesting or fun to do in the world. It's just an empty stretch of copy and pasted activities. This is where Ubisoft's decision to not have side quests in AC Valhalla rears its ugly head again. They could have created some really fun side quests and told some interesting stories here, but no! They didn't even bother to make that many world events in this expansion. I've only found 3 of them so far. All the other map markers are simply tedious resource grinding and checklist style content. Without anything interesting to do in the open world, the only thing left is the story. So is that good at least? Well, I don't want to spoil anything, so I'll just say it's fine. It's nothing super special or mind-blowing, but it's interesting enough to keep you moving forward. Although one major gripe that I have is that some of the main quests are just awful from a gameplay standpoint. There are multiple escort missions where you have to follow the slowest NPCs of all time. I mean, I know dwarves have short legs and all, but I expected them to have more spring in their step than this. Oh my god, just move for f***'s sake. I literally don't think he can move any slower. Can I side with Suitengr and just wipe out the dwarves? There are also not 1, not 2, but 3 different quests where you have to carry dwarves on your back for hundreds of meters.
Can you walk? I don't think so. Very well.
No fucking way. Again? I can't believe this. I wonder if this is some kind of social experiment that Ubisoft is running to see how bad they can make the gameplay before people just quit playing. On a positive note, most of the boss fights were pretty fun. I enjoyed most of them, and they were a decent challenge. Not too difficult, but engaging enough to be interesting. However, one issue I noticed in this DLC in particular is that certain enemies' attacks can layer over each other and stunlock your character into oblivion. Just take a look at this.
I assume he learned it from you.
That was like 10 seconds where I had no control over the character at all. I couldn't even hit dodge before the next attack had already stunned me again. It didn't happen too often, but when it did, it was really annoying. Overall, the combat was still pretty easy, and the only times I died were from fall damage and this one bullshit boss fight with a firecat. He could literally cover the entire arena with lava and then do big AoE attacks in the tiny circle of the arena that wasn't completely covered with lava. I think the idea was to use Power of the Moosefell to negate the fire damage, but there was no way to top off your Hugr during the fight, and he spams this lava attack multiple times. It's just a gigantic pain in the ass instead of a fair challenge. But in all of AC Valhalla, no enemy is more formidable than the Swarm of Rats, which Ubisoft brought in from the Siege of Paris DLC for no reason at all. Like, the rats were in Paris because of the plague, so that mechanic actually made sense in the context of that expansion. But why are there swarms of rats in Svartalfheim? It doesn't make any sense. Go into the hole, damn you! I'm playing as a literal god, and I just got killed by a group of rats. Oh no, my only weakness. Odin is no match for a swarm of rats. One thing I was really hoping to see in this expansion were some new epic weapons and armor. There are only a handful of new weapons and armor sets, but I gotta be honest, none of it was really that impressive. Hell, there were better weapons with more mythological lore in the base game, like Thor's hammer and Excalibur. The new Atgear weapon type is pretty cool, and I've had fun using it, but for the most part, I'm still rocking all the equipment I already had in the base game. Where are the Isu weapons and armor? There are a few new armor sets as well, but again, nothing was particularly earth-shattering. In Fate of Atlantis, you could get really awesome Isu armor sets. Now, if you want Isu armor, you have to go to the Helix store and spend $20 on a microtransaction. Side note, is it still considered a microtransaction if the price tag is that high? I don't know. Maybe there's something that I'm missing, but none of the gear I've found so far or looked up in other YouTube videos has really screamed legendary or mythological. Yet another example of wasted potential in Dawn of Ragnarok. So is Dawn of Ragnarok worth your time and money? I'm sure you already know the answer by now. No, keep your money and go play something else. I think only the most die-hard Valhalla fans will have a good time with this expansion. If you want to play it, knock your socks off. Maybe wait to pick it up when it's heavily discounted, like a Black Friday sale or something. I really wanted to enjoy Dawn of Ragnarok, and I hoped it would fully lean into its mythological setting and protagonist. Ubisoft had an opportunity to create something truly special with this expansion. You're playing as a literal god in a mythological setting with dwarves, magic, and all sorts of interesting stuff. They could have really stretched their creativity and made an unforgettable experience. Instead, they just churned out a soulless, corporate cash grab with copy-pasted content from the base game. It's just such an unfortunate waste of potential. Honestly, I think this DLC broke me a little bit, because as I was playing it, I was like, man, I need a new hobby or something. Maybe I'm going to pick up yoga or meditation or something like that. It just broke me. So there you have it, my review and rant about Assassin's Creed Valhalla Dawn of Ragnarok DLC. If you liked this video, be sure to subscribe to Big Dan Gaming for more RPG reviews and lore videos. Also, shout out to all the channel members for supporting my content. Until next time, this has been Big Dan. I should go.